I'm just having my glass of water to get me ready.
Ciao bambini.
Good morning and welcome to our whole school assembly.
Hola!
Let's get some learning on.
Welcome to another day of home learning.
What time is it?
So we're going to work out the volume of this ring ball.
And they're all over the floor.
I consist of 95% water.
We learn grammar through the coolest tool, music.
Super cool.
Godt arbejde i dag, Leo.
I just need to keep it up. I'm so proud of you. Well done.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Google. No? Good afternoon again. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's Google Reference School webinar. I'm Kat Lamin. I'm a Google certified trainer, innovator, and coach, and I am delighted today to be joined by Britannia Village Primary School, who are going to talk today about computing, which is my favourite subject. So hopefully you will all join me in welcoming Luke and Kate from Britannia Village.
Hello. So thanks for having us on. First of all, it's really nice to be here, and hopefully our tech all works smoothly. And it's been smooth in the run up to this. But yeah, so like I said, we're from Britannia Village Primary School. My name's Luke Craig, and I'm the computing lead at the school, and a certified innovator and trainer, and hopefully a coach soon as well.
My name's Kate. I'm a Year 5 teacher at Britannia Village Primary School.
And yeah, today we're just going to kind of share a little bit about, a few things. Computing, primary computing, the actual subject, and computer science, and how we've kind of tackled that across over the last few years, but also technology in general and how we use the kind of Google tools and things like that. So yeah, we're over in East London. We're probably one of the closest schools to the Excel for the Bet Show. So if you've ever been to the Bet Show, you would have come very close to where we are. And yeah, we've been a reference school since 2018, I believe. So today, like I mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of tech at BV and how it's kind of changed and transformed over the years. And then Kate is going to share a bit about how we use Google Sites. So we're going to sort of zoom in a bit on the different ways we use that with teachers and students and other things. And then I'm going to talk about computing curriculum towards the end of the session. And there should be some time for some Q&A at the end too. So first of all, the history of tech at BV. Now I plan to actually bring in one of the laptops that we used to have, but I couldn't find it. It's so old, and I've tried to keep it almost like a historic object that I can show in the future as technology keeps getting better, to show this is what it was like when I first started at the school. But in 2014, I'd been at the school for a few years, and that's when the new curriculum came in, and it's also when the computing leader of Britannia Village left. And so there was an opportunity for me to become the computing leader. And I wasn't that I didn't jump at the chance, because I kind of saw the role of computing leader was often fixing printers or rushing around trying to connect to people's whiteboards. Sometimes in lessons, you just send a child to go and ask that teacher, oh, how do I do this again? Not to mention fixing all of the software and installing it and liaising with the technicians. And it just seemed like a bit of a nightmare job. But I thought it would be a good opportunity to see what it's like being in kind of management role. And it was a nightmare. So the laptops that we had often didn't work. You were lucky if half of them would connect to the Wi-Fi and would connect. So teachers didn't really use them much in lessons. The trolleys that we had often didn't charge them, so the batteries would run out very quickly. Even when they were fully charged, they didn't work that well. And there was just so many issues. Even when they did work, they were very, very slow. And on top of that, that was the new computing curriculum had just been introduced. So suddenly primary school teachers were expected to teach, computer science and algorithms and Scratch and all these things that we were never taught when we were at school. So there were quite a lot of challenges.
I'm jumping in because I have to say that this is where you and I differed massively, because as we were talking about this, when I heard about the new curriculum, I was like, yes, this is so much fun. I'm so excited. I can't wait. So.
I am also excited. I think it's a brilliant idea. I just think logistically it's hard to implement, and it's hard. It has taken quite a lot of time. But no, you're right. It's fantastic that students, you know, as young as primary school, will be learning some of these computer science principles.
But I think your experience better reflects the most teachers who just thought, oh no, what am I going to do? You know, this is terrifying. Sorry, I'm being very rude and interrupting you, but.
Yeah, no, and also that teaches me I should read the comments that are popping up, and I should have said, yeah, jump in. But but this is also an interesting point, that lots of computing leads who I meet at networking meetings and things, often they might be a leader of English and maths, and computing's like added on, or it's often a job or a role where people haven't aimed for that role. They've just sort of ended up there, and that's what happened with me. And I tried different strategies. We tried, scratch training, and we tried a few. We bought more laptops, but it was kind of more of the same problems were happening. So that's when in 2016, after a couple of years of sort of pulling my hair out, I thought I'd found the perfect solution. And that was the maths leader at our school left to go to another school. And so I thought, great, I'm going to apply to be the maths leader, and then someone else can, do their stint in primary computing. But I didn't get the job. Someone else at the school got the job, and so I was stuck. I thought, well, either I'll leave and go and try and work at another school, or I just try and kind of jump into ICT and see what can be done to try, because it's not working as it is. So that's when we went. We sort of visited a few other schools that were using technology really well. So Google schools, also other schools that use other technology that I don't know if I'm allowed to say. But anyway, the schools we visited that we use in the Google Chromebooks, we really saw that they worked really well. It was really nice speaking to teachers about it, not just, the salespeople at Bet Show who always say that, that their product's the best. So it was nice to hear from teachers. We did a trial in year 4 with Chromebooks. It worked really well. So then we bought Chromebooks one-to-one devices for everyone from year 2 up to year 6. And since then, we've kind of been on this journey of, first of all, embedding it and getting staff trained. So we had bootcamp training, getting lots of our staff their level 1 Google certificate, which was really, really useful and important to make sure your staff are trained. And then the different ways that that it's transformed teaching and learning, and different ways that we've sort of found and staff have found to innovate to save time. Today, now our target is about showcasing and trying to, like the school that we visited in 2017, trying to be that support for other schools and sharing how we do it. Not at all that we do things perfectly, we really don't, but just to share ideas and allow other schools to see how we do it, and then maybe take some that might apply in their context back to them. And just to mention as well, we are now one of the EdTech demonstrator schools. So any primary schools in the country can actually get free support from the EdTech demonstrator program for up to 30 hours of support up until March next year. So you can get that from us or any of the other fantastic schools with Google or the other available technology resellers. So that's kind of like the history of where we've come from. And I'd love to share loads of examples about how it's transformed our teaching and learning, but we're just going to focus in on one particular area, and that's how we as a school have kind of taken on Google Sites. And Kate is going to share a few examples, one of how teachers use Google Sites and how students use them. So have you got that up yet, Kate? Is it ready?
Yes, I do. I think I've got that on the screen now. Is that appearing on the screen?
I think it's coming up, yeah.
So, did that work?
Yeah, so we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So at our school, I feel like over the past 2 years, we've really focused in on Google Sites. In-home learning, like during lockdown, we really stuck with Google Sites, and it was such an easy way to communicate with the kids at home, and an easy way to get all of our videos, make them easily accessible. One way that we have used them for maybe 3 or so years, do you think, Luke?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've used these DigiFloor books. So we used to use like a scrapbook to show all of the kids' work and trips and all that sort of stuff. But now we use them online. So this is an example of the Year 5 one that we have. We have links to all of our topics at the bottom. We've got links to like when we've been on trips for photos and that sort of thing. If I click into our A Better World topic, so this is from the beginning of the year, we focused on the World Land Trust, and we actually created these rainforest smoothies. And we've got loads of photos of the kids with their smoothies. And they actually created all of these labels as well using Adobe Spark, which I think I've got linked in here as well. And it's just a really great way to showcase all of their work. It's great for parents at home to see all of their work and see what the kids are up to constantly. And Google Sites, it makes it so easy to upload almost every day. Like throughout our Explorer topic, we were constantly updating this, but it takes like little to no time to do. And it's, yeah, a really great way to showcase everything that we have done. We've also got the kids to create their own version of this. So this is in my Google Classroom. Is that appearing on the screen, Luke?
Yeah, we can see it. And just to add as well, like with the DigiFloor books, teachers, like you said, Kate, find it it's much easier for us. It reduces our workloads compared to the old days when we had to print off pictures and stick them into these A3 scrapbooks. And then also at the end of the year, they'd normally get put in a cupboard or, lost. Whereas now, because they're websites, I can easily find my DigiFloor books from 2-3 years ago and find pictures of lessons that were really fun. So yeah, and family members in other countries can view it, like you said.
Yeah, I forgot to mention as well, we can like embed their work as well. So we've got like some of the writing that they did. So we've just embedded like Google Docs. Yeah, and it just makes it so easy to have everything in one place. But the kids have also created their own websites. And if I click into this Google Doc, we've actually got all of the kids, all 60 kids in Year 5 have published a Google site. And if I just click into Brooke's one here, so we've used our DigiFloor book almost like an example for the kids to use, and they've just adapted their own one. Sorry, just waiting for it to load. So this is Brooks from my class, and she has, completely created this independently. She's got like a little bit about herself. We've got like some of our designs from the start of the year. So from like DT projects, and it's easy for them with Chromebooks to just take selfies of their work and upload it. We've got photos from the DigiFloor book that she's embedded here as well. So it's really nice for the kids to create their own as well and have that independence to be creative with their work as well.
And can I just add as well, Kate, this is one of the ways we make it really easy for them is that if we put pictures onto our teacher DigiFloor book, we teach them how to, they can go and right click and save that image to their Chromebook, and then they can, their driver, they can just upload it. So they can select from all of the pictures on our version and take the ones with them in it or the ones that they like. Yeah. And this is is it Book Creator? I've forgotten the name, Book Creator, that she has embedded in as well. So we've got, just trying to turn it. Yes, this is her Book Creator, all about her computing specifically. So we're able to put in all of the Python stuff, Raspberry Pi. It's really great that they can use so many different like programs and all put it in the one site. We've even got like GarageBand. So that was really loud. So she's put her song that she's created on GarageBand as well, which is, just really awesome. Did you want to add anything on that, Luke? Well, I'll talk a little bit more about computing later, but one of the issues that I've kind of had is being able to find evidence of all their work. So being able to, because in computing, it might be a song on an iPad somewhere, and then it might be a they've done work on the Raspberry Pi, but they don't write it down in books, and I don't want them to write it down in books. But it's nice to keep evidence of that, and actually doing it as a website or a book creator is a nice way of just storing that, and they're learning all these other digital skills while they're doing it. So,
and as well as the DigiFloor books, I know that it's been really great for all the year groups to showcase their work, but a lot of the subject leaders have now started to create Google Sites based on subjects. So I think it's just such a great tool for evidencing learning. And it's just, like Luke mentioned before, it's just so easy to add content to rather than having to print it out and, do all of that sort of stuff. So,
Kate, I think someone asked in the chat, are these for children or for teachers?
So the DigiFloor book that I showed before, this one here is created by the teachers, and that is, we use it to refer back to, but then it's also published on our school website for parents to see. The one that I showed, just like this one that's on the screen now, this is created by Brooke, that's in my class, and all of the kids in year 5 have them, and it's great for us to look back so we can see their learning, and it's all in the one spot, but also they can show their families at home as well. Is that okay?
No, good answer. And also they can, as a teacher, I sometimes find at the end of a lesson or a topic lesson or whatever the lesson is, trying to find really useful extension tasks can always be kind of challenging sometimes. Whereas if they've got their Chromebook, it's quite easy to say, right, take whatever you've just learned and actually add a new subpage under this topic, and then add it to your portfolio or your website or your book creator, whatever it is that they're working on. And then they can, it's actually a really important process for them to put it onto the website and think about it like that.
Yeah, definitely.
And someone's asked, what inspired the name DigiFloor book?
Do you want to answer that for me?
So as long as I've been at the school, which is nearly 10 years, they used to have floor books, topic floor books, and it used to be one per class. So we each had one of these A3 scrapbooks that we'd add photos in. And the idea was the topic leader could walk around on any day and pick up your topic floor book and have a look through them. But in reality, what kind of happened was, it was always the last job on your to-do list. And it wasn't until the topic leader sent an email saying, I'm coming around to check topic books or floor books, that everyone started panicking and staying late and printing off pictures and photocopying work. And it was a lot of extra teacher hours. And then, like I said, at the end of the year, it kind of got lost. And so we even had one teacher actually tried to become, they did become the topic leader, and he almost had like a manifesto pledge that he'd get rid of floor books, and everyone was really excited about that, and he got the job, but then he didn't get rid of floor books, so we used to call him Nick Clegg. But anyway, we now moved over to DigiFloor books, and so it's a little bit more, it's easy. First of all, you only need to do one for the year group, so each teacher doesn't have to create their own. One is enough, and also it means parents can view it, and I'm not sure how many parents do view it, but I know that some students have said that they've got family who live in Brazil or in other parts of the world that have been following what they've been learning about in a particular topic through the DigiFloor book. So,
can I just add to that, Luke? I think as well with the a lot of parents ask for pictures when we're on trips and that sort of thing, and it can be difficult to share them. But if it's all in the one place, it's just really easy for them to access. So we don't really get questions about that anymore because it's just all in the one spot, which is, that's really handy as well. Yeah, and I suppose some people have asked me before, why don't you just put them onto your school website? Why do you have to have a Google site? But it's just because it links so easily. If you've used Google Sites, it links so nicely with Google Drive. So if you've taken photos on an iPad or however you take photos from that device, you can just upload them to Google Drive. And then as soon as you could do it on the coach coming back from a trip. And then when you get to your desktop or your laptop, whatever, you can just add them all in one go, and it formats them and makes them all look nice. So yeah, it just works. Hi, Kat.
Hello, I've got a quick question for you. I'm going to put you on the spot, so I apologise in advance. But so these sites are publicly shared, they're open, so you've got people in Brazil looking at them. So how do you manage permissions around that from parents? So I know schools will ask.
You want to go, Kate, or shall I?
Yeah, I'll let you go.
So a couple of things. First of all, the student ones, we first of all, they all make them private and they're just for them. But then we actually have like a digital, online safety lesson where we talk all about e-footprints and digital footprints and the importance of not putting your full name and address and all of that sort of thing. Or they actually know that from younger years, but we have a big important chat about that this is live, it's public, they have to be really careful with what they put on there. And by year 5, this is more Key Stage 2, they create their websites. By that age, then if we let them decide, and if they want to make it public, then we show them how to do it. But there's actually quite a few steps. It's like they have to specifically be looking to make it public. You can't just accidentally share it with the whole world. And even if you do, it's quite a long URL that people probably won't stumble across unless you share that link with them specifically. So that's the student ones. With the teacher DigiFloor books, we have every year when students start, we ask the parents if they're allowed to be in our kind of media, on the website or in videos or on social media and things like that. And parents can opt out. And if they do, we get a list of names, and it's our responsibility as teachers to make sure those students aren't in any photos, they're not in the DigiFloor book. And we just have to make sure that so all the students that you can see, their parents have given permission.
Brilliant. I love that idea of teaching the children what's appropriate and inappropriate, rather than just saying, no, you can't do it. It's just so much more sensible.
Yeah, and it's still a safe environment. We still have ultimate control through the admin console. We can delete their sites and we can manage them and lock down their account. So it's much safer. We found that some students, had their own Gmail account that they'd created, and they had YouTube accounts. And that's actually a really serious sort of breach of, when you've got year 3 children looking at the comments on YouTube, some of which are horrific. And so at least this is a safe environment to do it. It does sound scary that, they're creating work that can be viewed outside, but it's not. It doesn't appear in the search results, as long as they don't click that little button. But even if it did, it will be so far down Google's algorithm. No one will find this by searching DigiFloor book, I don't think.
Yeah. I think it's really important. It's something I talk about a lot about digital citizenship and explaining to children how to be responsible digital citizens. And it's, especially at primary level, it's one of our core roles. I think we have to show children what email is, what social media is, and how to use it appropriately when they're old enough to use it.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, I think it's an absolutely wonderful idea. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to pop off now and leave you two to carry on with your presentation.
Have you got more, Kate? I don't know.
No, I think that's everything from me, unless there's any more questions. So.
Great. Yeah, no, thanks.
Thank you.
The next part of the kind of presentation is focusing now on computing a little bit more. So we've spoken about the history, we've spoken about how we use Google Sites in a few different ways. We didn't even talk about home learning, but that was, like, I think you mentioned it, Kate, that was all done via Google Sites. It's just a really nice way to organize it. But yeah, now I'm going to talk a little bit about how the computing curriculum has changed. Some of the challenges, like Kat mentioned at the start, of having staff who have never learned this in primary school. I never learned about coding in primary school, suddenly having to teach it. And there's only so much you can get across in like one inset every term or year, or however you do it in Scratch. So one of my challenges was how do we teach computing? How do we make sure the students are getting a really outstanding education in computing? Because it is exciting to think how far technology has come just in the time I've been teaching, and to think about where it will be in the next 10 years. And I saw a statistic, well, it's just a fact, that people in reception now, I think they're going to graduate from uni in 2030 or maybe in 2037 or something. So who knows what jobs will be around then, but probably computing skills will be really important and high up on the list of what people will want who are hiring. So we started off, we kind of had, we tried package curriculums where they give you all of the units, and it sort of worked and it was okay, but some of the units were more interesting than others. Some of them, they got out of date quite quickly and you needed software installed. And what we basically found, and what I found, is that teachers often just wouldn't teach computing. It was the first lesson that would get knocked off of the curriculum or the timetable if they had other things like trips and one lesson has to make way, computing would make way. And I kind of didn't blame them. The hardware, the laptops didn't work back then. Then we got all the Chromebooks. Suddenly it was like hardware sorted. We've got these devices that work. They've got one each. So it really, there's a lot of potential here. We could do some amazing computing stuff. But then there was kind of COVID, and my focus was more on embedding Google across the school and the trust. But now recently we've started to really try and focus on getting computing to a really good position. So I've wanted to do it for a while, but finally we've started creating our own computing curriculum that we call the Evolving Computing Curriculum. And it just means that we don't want to make it set in stone, because computing by its nature, there's always new software coming out, there's new tools that we want to include in our curriculum. Unlike maths maybe or geography, that is much more, you can teach the same thing. I'm sure there are new things in maths and geography, but in computing, you have to be really kind of finger on the pulse to keep all the new stuff coming. And also we wanted to find out from teachers which units they're enjoying and which don't work so well, and things like that. So that was one challenge, actually having a curriculum that was quite, fun. That was an important thing. We wanted children to enjoy it. Children often enjoy computing, but only if it's fun, exciting activities, rather than some activities that we've done in the past in computing. So I'm just going to share, this is our actual kind of computing website. So we've packaged this up in a Google site. So this is another way we use Google Sites now at the school, and we've started to do this. I'll just zoom in a couple of times. We've started to do this in other topics as well, not just computing, but this is the first time we tried it. And so, yeah, like it says here, this is the first page. So it just gives an introduction. The aim of this website is to share ideas for what teachers can do in the different in year groups. And then the second role of this is for them to share the evidence of what students have been doing. So we've got some computing skills here. These are just like the non-negotiables or the essential skills that they should have done by the end of different year groups. And then as they go down, we had lots of kind of computing resources around at the school, and we bought some new ones, and we just wanted to make it really exciting. And we wanted to say that, we commit by the time you leave year 6, if you come to our trust, you would have had experience using all of these different tools and resources and software and more. You might not be an expert in all of them, but you would have at least done a few weeks on them and been introduced to them. So if I just give an example, so if I go to like year 2, for example, first of all, this is the same as on the homepage, but just for year 2. So it's like the skills that they need by the end of the year. And then it just breaks down very simply what it is that they're going to be doing. And like I said, I've spent quite a long time trying to map this in the curriculum, which is it seems quite open-ended, which is good. So you can sort of do what you like, really, as long as you meet those objectives. But yeah, we've tried to create this so that we can see that there's progression and we can see the different activities. And then teachers can go onto here, and there's links to, if there's different, I've not sat and written lesson plans for every single one of these, but often there's links or plans or ideas that are already out there. Some LGFL resources, ProBots after BBots in year 1, some unplugged activities. And again, they're just linked, and all of the kind of activities should be linked in there that teachers can use. So that's one part of it, just kind of showing the different tools that they use. And I'll just show Kate's one, because you saw a few examples of some of their, so they learned a little bit of Python, just the very basics, just so they can understand what kind of written code looks like compared to Scratch. They use Raspberry Pis to learn about like the different inputs and outputs and USB ports and the names of different parts, and OBots. And CS First is brilliant, by the way. If any computing leads are watching, CS First, just to give you a quick idea of what it is, essentially it's 8 lessons that are pre-prepared. They have videos, they have starter activities, so like Scratch projects that already have lots of the code in it, and then the students can just watch the videos. So here's lesson 1, they can watch the video and then complete the work on their own. And now it's got even better, because you can sign in as a teacher and assign that to your classes, and you can see what they've done and things like that. So like I said, that's one of the things that we've done. And again, this is sort of a bit of a trial. We started at the beginning of this year, then we locked down, so lots of them haven't completed all of the areas, but we're just seeing how it goes, really. Then the other kind of thing that we sometimes show is this evidence of student work. And this is where teachers can go on there, they can add examples of what students have done. So I think at the bottom of here, these are the websites that Kate was showing earlier. Sometimes there's pictures of when they were using the OBOTs or the Raspberry Pis. Sometimes, yeah, more pictures. Sometimes it's work that I've just screenshotted from inside their ebooks and put it on there to show this is where they're learning about Raspberry Pis, not that kind of Raspberry Pi, and other things like that. So teachers have been going on. So for example, year 4, if I, as a computing lead, if I want to see, have they been doing like they're supposed to be creating a short advert using iMovie, and they've actually uploaded all of those onto here. So I can go on and watch one of the videos. And also for me as computing lead, if the head teacher wanted to know, or I wanted to know, or Ofsted popped in for a kind of a deep dive, I've got, you know, I don't have to go hunting around iPads or folders or Google Drive. I can just use this website and show some of the examples of what the videos they've been creating. And yeah, this is all done with iMovie, but if you do create, I think it's create a trailer or something, it has lots of this built in already. So it's quite easy to make really nice little short video clips. And sometimes it's pictures. Sometimes it is links to like Flipgrid, so they might have videoed themselves responding. So it's sort of a mixture of different ways of showing what they've been doing or evidence in it. So one other thing I'll quickly just explain. Maybe I'll do it for year 5. There's another issue as a computing lead, and I don't know if you're a computing lead watching this, I don't know if you've found a really good solution, but one of the questions I kind of dodge whenever I see it or think, oh, I should probably think about that, is how do you assess computing? It's quite a, you know, you don't want to assess them like you do in English and maths, and you don't want to have to make it difficult for teachers or really time consuming, and you don't want it to be a pointless task. Like some of the ideas I've had in the past, I've just looked at them and thought, you know what, they're just wasting their time doing this extra work, trying to assess their computing when it's not helping their computing knowledge. It's just like ticking a box. And I still don't have the answer to that. But one of the ideas that we're trying is I've created these a Google form, and then on the website there's a link for the teacher to make a copy of it. And then this Google form is just self-assessment. So the teacher, whoever is the year 5 teacher, can click this. Then this is like a quiz, so it gives them points for different things that they should have learned in that year. So if they've been learning about you know, what print does in Python, they can, you know, see if they can get that right, and then they get a certain number of points. But it gives the teacher edit access, so they can actually edit this, or they could delete some of the questions if they don't use them. But then eventually they can just send that kind of assessment to the students via Google Classroom or whatever else. Students can do it, and then we have, I've got a load of data about how the students have done in that particular topic, and then we can kind of see that year on year maybe. We haven't actually done this yet because I don't know if it will work, but that's one idea. And another one, same sort of thing, but it's just doing it with self-assessment. So these are just the 12 or however many those targets that they have at the top. Do the students think that they can do these on a scale of strongly disagree to whatever? So they can just say, yeah, I know what a variable is, or an algorithm, or I don't. So yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to know if other people have a good kind of a simple but also effective use of assessment in computing. I'd love to hear about it. But yeah, I feel like I've spoken for quite a while now, so I don't know if there's more questions, Kat, or if I've missed anything. But yeah,
so there was a question earlier, which was around who owned the sites that the children were working on. So I don't know if you want to answer that or bring Kate in to answer that.
Yeah, good question. So the way we've done it in the past is we let them create their own site, like site.new, and then we get them to share it with us. And in fact, I think somewhere on the year 5 one, we tried this in year 5 because, you know, if it's in their own drive, how do we view it? So that's why we made this document, and we told them to just get the link to their published site, and then they could just highlight their name, add their link in. So we sort of showed them about hyperlinks, and then we turned off the sharing settings so they couldn't edit it anymore. So now we've got access to all of their sites, but that's viewing access. We don't actually, without going into the admin console and blocking it, they've done it themselves. But now that we're a couple of years further down the line, I've started thinking about maybe using like a template generator where I would maybe make 20 sites for a class and share it with them using like a little script or something that would do that for them, so that we'd actually be the editor as well. So that's probably a better way to do it.
So from my perspective, I think you've got some really incredible tools you're using in school, but some of them are quite advanced. For example, you don't need to teach Python and Raspberry Pi in a primary school. Those are, I mean, they're incredible that you're using them and that you're teaching them. It's really good to see. But if you were to talk to a new computing lead, of all those tools you showed us, what would you say were the big winners, the ones that the staff are finding easy to use, the children love, and that are really teaching those skills? Really good question. I will come to that. Just quickly on Python. This is I just want to point out that it's the way it sounds like I'm some kind of coding whiz teaching Python to year 5, but it's very, very basic. It's this kind of thing that's available from LGFL. So we get it for free as part of that because we're an LGFL school. But it just kind of explains to them how Python works. It starts off with like drag and drop activities, and there are little helper videos. And then it moves on to somewhere you can actually type in your own, and it just gets them to understand, about the sequence. And it's a very basic introduction to, they've used Scratch and block-based coding, and for them then to see what it's like to do typed or printed code, just to introduce that idea. And then I'm sure they'll do more in secondary school, but it won't be such a new thing for them. Another good one, if you are teaching Scratch in primary school, is EduBlocks, which is made actually by Josh, who was 14 when he first started making it. And it's basically just Python code on Scratch blocks. So you treat it like Scratch, but you get to see the Python script and learn the syntax a little bit better. So that's quite a nice way to introduce it if you are looking at it with younger students. I'm going to ask Rachel to share that one in the chat, actually. Yeah, and I remember you showed me that, and it is brilliant because you can see the blocks and then it shows you what the code would look like. And so, in fact, I really want to build that into maybe year 6 so that they can kind of recap and refresh their memory. But yeah, that's a part of it. That's why I like having this open. It's not, locked down to these set things and you just got to follow the lessons one by one. It allows them to experience lots of different things in little ways. They're not an expert in Python. They're not an expert in any of this. It's just seeing what it's like. And then they lose the fear factor and then they start to see the similarities. Like, oh, so that's what a loop looks like in this one. And that's what a loop looks like in this one. And they start making those links. Yeah. So go back to tools. Which one of those bits of hardware or software do you think is the best one you would recommend for teachers to invest time and money in? Okay, well, the first one is free. So if you start using CS First, we have a CS First unit in every year from year 3 up. I think they're brilliant just because it's all there for you. And I kind of, as a computing lead, I see this as like almost 8 weeks worth of training for that teacher who's leading it, because the way I teach these lessons is I'll kind of play the video in front of the class and kind of pause it at different points, ask questions, but I'm learning as we're going. There's lots of good ideas on there. And then it also has these starter projects. So when you click it, they don't have to start from scratch. They can, they've already got the sprites and the backgrounds, and sometimes there's some code already in there, and they just have to follow the steps in the video and they can do that. So that's been a real hit at our school for teachers because it's there, it's done. It's like a lesson they don't have to plan and prepare. So they love it. And one of the things I really like about CS First is that you don't have to create individual accounts for Scratch. So if you're using it separately, you have to deal with either having them log into a single account, which doesn't work if you're on different IP addresses, so if you're working remotely, or create individual accounts for each child, which is hours of work, really. So I love the fact that CS First, it's all sort of integrates and goes into your sort of teacher account, because I was actually using it, I have to admit, as a blank canvas for some work I was doing. So it's a really nice, easy way to access Scratch for students. Yeah, no, completely agree. And that's like within the last year, they've updated that. They've kind of completely rebuilt the CS First experience so that you can, because before you had to create Scratch separately and it's public, so it's a bit dodgy. And now it's brilliant. I always found when I'm doing Scratch on the main site, there's always at least one child who finds some random game to play. And you have to bring everyone back because they found a game and they've gone off and played that while you're trying to teach.
Yeah.
So it's really nice.
CS First is like my kind of first recommendation. Probots and Bbots, I know they're kind of the staple, but everyone knows Bbots, but Probots are really nice progression. We use those in year 2, and simply they can see the kind of commands, and they can go back and delete them and change them if they need to. So they're really nice, and they charge, and you can buy a few of them. Raspberry Pis are great, but they are quite technical, and it takes a lot of time to get your head around how it works. And I think microbits are brilliant. They don't need as much time to kind of get used to it. So we do these in year 6, but I'm probably going to swap them to year 5 because
they're probably easier than the Raspberry Pi to get your head around.
Yeah, but there's this, you can start with a blank project, but also there are really easy things to follow where I'm saying they're easy.
The pedometer is always an easy one.
Yeah, if I start a new activity, you can plug your microbit in and do it. I think the new ones you can do wirelessly as well, but the ones that I've used, you plug in and you can download the code. And again, it's block based, but once they've been exposed to so many different types of blocks, they start to understand, forever loop. Yeah, okay, that's like the when flag clicked, and they kind of start to see the links. And so this is what kind of excites me when the children are starting to use all of these different tools. And I think, at their age, they already understand variables and loops and stuff. And you think, imagine what it will be like when they get older. It's very exciting. So microbits are brilliant. They're very cheap as well, if I remember rightly.
Yeah. So there is a shortage at the moment. I was discussing with someone this morning. They're really hard to get hold of. You have to hunt round. I'm told OKDo and CPC are good sources at the moment, but it just depends on what shipping containers have made it over. Yeah.
Scratch Junior, love Scratch Junior as well for I think they do that in year 2 as like an introduction to block-based. Spheros are good, but again, they're a bit more complicated than I thought. I'm going to have to really get my head around it. I didn't really like Makey Goes. I hope no one
They seem to be loved. They're a bit of a Marmite device. I have a friend who comes to any computing event I'm running and brings his Makey and a couple of bananas.
Yeah. So Makey, I'm sure they're great. This is like the cheaper version because I was running out of budget, and maybe I need to give it more time and try it a few more times. Yeah, one of our kind of goals was to get physical computing into each year group, so that there'd be some kind of, it's not all just sitting at a laptop or a Chromebook.
Yeah, absolutely. Stuart's just said that in the chat. He's in primary school, it's just so important to make that link between this, and it's in the curriculum as well. This makes the robot do a thing. Yeah, and then they're actually seeing it happen. So like even with this, you can do a bit of code and it does it on the screen, but it's a bit like, so what, Whereas when you can start using it, and we normally do the rock paper scissors game. So when you shake it, then it randomizes and chooses a picture of either rock, paper, or scissors, so they can play each other. And you can plug a battery in, so you can start taking it around the room. And suddenly that's coding for a purpose, and it's getting them excited. It's getting them realize, this is why we do it. And then they think about how they can change it and adapt it. And that's. I think one of the first things that got me really excited about computing was just doing a traffic light on a Raspberry Pi, because there's a little device called a Pi stop that you plugged into the pins, and just being able to, use Scratch to make the red light come on. Oh my God, mind blowing. This is amazing. As opposed to doing it on Flowall or something on the screen. So whatever. I want to do it for real.
Yeah. You've reminded me, I must talk about, we're doing a trial at the moment with LGFL for Pico, now where would it be? Pico robots, which are like the kind of little brother of the Obot. And they're brilliant because you can plug them into a Chromebook and you can use it with Scratch. So I think I've saved it. When I was first doing this, I thought I'd do a page for each term, but I've decided that's a bad idea. This is another idea, using Flipgrid to get them to record their screen. So we did this quite a lot when they were home learning. So it was very easy. We just give them a CS First activity to do, and then we give them a Flipgrid link, and then they would use that to record their screen.
If you look over here, this is the new.
And then they can kind of show what they've done. And by me listening to them explain it, I know if that child understands what they've done, and I'll take any good examples and put them onto this website to show other people. But anyway, there's lots of ways to do it. Interland for online safety. Maybe I've not actually added it to. Oh yeah, here it is. So here we've been using these Picos. They're smaller, but 1 between 2. They can use Scratch, and they can program them very, very simply. You just plug in and play, and there's lots of fun things that they can do, changing their eyes. And exactly what Stuart said in the chat, it gets them excited about doing things. So at the moment, we're getting them to make a times table questionnaire or quiz. So it will ask you a times table, and if you get it right, then it nods and it goes happy. And we're just learning about the basic sort of computer science principles.
One thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about microbits earlier is that I think it's either CAS or the NCCE, National Centre for Computing Excellence, are putting microbits into local libraries to lend to schools. So if you've got a CAS hub, an NCCE hub near you, they can loan them to local primary schools. So that's worth noting, because that's obviously a free resource. I'm really loving hearing about your curriculum, but actually I think it'd be nice to bring Kate back in and give her a chance to talk about what it's like from the other side, because obviously you've written and created this. She's a teacher on the front line who's had to learn how to use it. So, sorry, Kate, I'm going to bring you and put you on the spot. So have you got any sort of comments, things, positives, things you found difficult about having everything so accessible on Luke's website?
I must admit, it is very overwhelming hearing all of these different devices and softwares and all that sort of stuff. But CS First, like you mentioned before, that has been so brilliant. It's so easy to follow, and it's really good, and the kids are really engaged and love CS First. Scratch Junior, that was really great. When I worked back in year 2, that was really fun, and it was difficult with getting kids to get used to using Chromebooks and all that sort of stuff. But they do learn so quickly, and it's amazing going from year 2 to year 5, seeing by the time they're in year 5, they're just so good at Chromebooks. Half the time they just spend time teaching me how to use them. That's a daily occurrence, actually. But it is really good to see the progression each year. And
so are there any particular tools or things from both of your perspectives that you found particularly haven't worked, or things that you've had pushback from, or just things that were too difficult?
When I tried Spheros, I just cannot get my head around it. We just ended up just having races with Spheros, not gonna lie. But that was a bit difficult. I'd love more tips on how to use those, because they're just sitting in my classroom at the moment.
And if I show you the Sphero kind of page, this is something that I bought because I thought it looked really cool, and it's quite easy to connect them, and it's quite easy to do the first bit where they start rolling around and you can control it, change the color. But then to actually start implementing code is much more complicated, and it can get complex really quickly. So one of the kind of it's really important to get feedback from teachers, because ultimately if it's too complicated or it's not fun or it's too difficult, it just won't get done. And so it's important that we do make sure. So I need to go and kind of make sure that there's clear, nice step-by-step things to do with Spheros. But it was kind of during lockdown, wasn't it, where it was just play with the Spheros, see how they work.
Well, I'm just going to remind everyone watching, please ask your questions in the chat, because we are coming to the end, I think. So let us know if you've got some questions. There's some lovely comments coming through. Mr. I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Mr. McNair. No, I'm not going to try. I'm sorry. Talking about recording the screen on Flipgrid. What a great idea. So you've already inspired one teacher. I'm really bad at pronouncing names. That's why I always check with people in advance. And Stuart Rogers, who's another Google innovator, really great computing teacher, just talking about computing needing to be prioritized. And I think it's really important. And it's one of the things we've been talking about, how some schools are saying oh, well, they've done computers for 18 months. We don't need to do any more computing. We can just focus on other subjects, which obviously isn't the ideal scenario right now, because actually computing needs to be embedded more so that it's there and prepared for anything going wrong in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think people do kind of confuse computing itself, like the actual computer science, with just using a laptop to do your writing, or and you're right, that these skills, potentially, if we train these children up and they've done this in primary and then they go to a secondary school with really great resources, and then they want to do it further than secondary school, then it's just really good for them. You're setting them up with really vital skills. I don't know about how much people get paid, but I'm sure developers get a lot of money, and there's a huge demand for them. So yeah, I think it's brilliant skills and most of it's fun. I find it really fun. It's kind of like problem solving, and maybe not everyone loves it, but yeah, it's nice to provide that for them.
It's that quality of screen time versus quantity of screen time. Just because they've had lots of it, it doesn't mean they actually are using it in a good way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really, really important. I mean, I could talk about this all day, as some of you already know. I've had one more question. Is there a link to your website, Luke, or is it just an internal one?
So at the moment, this is internal. But what I was kind of thinking I might do at some point. At first, I was thinking when I finished it, but I don't think it will be finished. It's just like a never. But I don't really know how I'm going to do this, but I'd somehow make it available. So I'd delete all the student work, so it's just what we've got and our ideas, and then somehow like force a copy, but I don't know if you can do that with sites, but I'll try and make it available so that people can take a copy and completely change it for their, and whatever resources you've got, you can put it in there. But just the idea of having a computing hub where teachers, they don't have to go in and find plans in Google Drive, or is it saved in this place or that place, and it's worked quite well for us to keep it there. But yeah, I'm going to try and make it available, but I don't know how.
I can see Katie and Stuart would be first in the queue.
Yeah, I'll try and figure a way of doing that. But I think I've put my email on here. If you email me, this will come through to me, demonstrator@britanniaeducationtrust.com. If you do that, or message on Twitter, I can send an individual copy to individual people. So maybe that's the best way for now, until I figure out another way of doing it.
Yeah, obviously, we don't want to risk anyone's privacy, but again, it's useful to give people a copy. I can see like Katie and Stuart there, both primary computing coordinators. Can you tell? Brilliant. Is there anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Not that I can think of. I don't know about you, Kate.
No, I can't think of anything else.
Your video held up.
I know, we're impressed. So in that case, I just want to say thank you both for joining me today. It's been really lovely to talk to you. It's nice to have the two perspectives of how everything's going. Obviously we get a lot of specialists, but it's nice to see I say normal teacher, but a teacher on the front line who's having to deal with everything and then do the tech on top of that and doing it well. It's really lovely to see. And I love that idea of the portfolios. We're seeing it more and more frequently, getting those e-portfolios coming through in schools, and I think it's really good. It's really nice, and the way that you're giving those pupils the digital citizenship and encouraging them to create their own, recognizing what's appropriate to share, it's so powerful. It's much, much better than just saying don't do it, because you're arming them for the future. I just remind everyone watching, please can you do the feedback form, and there are more webinars going on. We've still got another few to go, so if you could register for them and let us know what you've liked or disliked about these webinars, that'd be great. Thank you. Yes, any final words?
I'd just say you've not really spoken about all of your expertise in this area, Kat, but you write schemes of work that get sold, and you've been doing this for years. So just a shout out to you. I've learned so much from you. So follow Kat as well to get lots of primary computing tips too.
Thank you. It's definitely my passion project. So keep an eye on the Canopy blog. There will be a blog post this week about primary computing and the importance of it. So hopefully that will be beneficial. And thank you very much for watching, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye.